This episode of the Justin Robert Young Podcast is brought to you by 295 of the raddest people on the planet. Wink. All right, you want to know what? We're stopping. Good God. Holy shit. We're not even playing the whole song here today. This is a punk rock episode of the Justin Robert Young Podcast. Hello, my name is Justin Robert Young. I do a podcast. You're listening to it. I feel like that should have been clear. Oh, this is a weird episode. So apologies to anybody who doesn't understand that this one's going to be a little bit odd. It's going to be quick. It's going to be a little punk rock, man. I told you, I'm going to get in, get out, quit fucking about. This will be a tight episode of the show. Why? A, it's late. I didn't do it on Sunday. I'm doing it on Monday. It's in the middle of the day. I'm going to try and avoid stepping on the Daily Tech News Show on diamondclub.tv. However, I have to do this because we have done an amazing thing here in the San Francisco Bay Area, and that is WrestleMania weekend. There were so many events. I had a bunch of people in town. I have crammed 5 people into my tiny one-bedroom apartment. I have almost nearly gotten divorced before I even get married by cramming 5 wrestling fans into a tiny one-bedroom apartment. Watch WrestleMania, live stream that for 5 hours, and you, the JuRY Patreon audience, are going to get that for free. Absolutely on the free tip. It's going to be yours. So that will be the companion and kind of my little makeup for this show. No audio in this show. I'm not playing any songs. It is just going to be me yelling at you. So what are we going to yell about? Well, I'm fucking glad you asked. This motherfucker Mike Pence. My voice is blown out right now, okay? You want to know why my voice is blown out? Because I have spent all weekend yelling at grown men in their underpants and telling them that they're pieces of shit and they're cheating or that they're doing great and they should continue living a happy and healthy life in athletic competition. That is the life of a WrestleMania weekend fan who has gone to as many shows as I have. But there is no bigger heel this week than Mike Pence. And you heard it here first. Guys, the rest of the world might have been a little shocked about like who this Mike Pence is. Not the JuRY show listeners. Every one of you guys knew who this dude was because I gave him my own personal brand of advice last week. Mike Pence, I don't know, were you a cop? That could have gone somewhere. It's not going to go anywhere now, dick. Because Mike Pence went and got himself wrapped up. I'm fighting with this mic stand if you're watching the YouTube version of the show. Mike Pence went and became the biggest asshole in America. Now, I'm not saying what he did or did not do is the worst thing on the planet, okay? I'm not saying that it's a good or a bad idea for him to have passed this legislation. If you are unaware, he's the governor of Indiana. He passed legislation that made it okay for people to discriminate on religious grounds. Meaning that people who have a religious problem with, let's say, the gays, they can discriminate against them, and it's not illegal. This is stupid for a couple reasons. Just in terms of legislation, if you look at where the paradigms are shifting, this legislation just won't last all that long. And if you have a problem with that, then you have a problem with our culture in general, and that's a larger conversation. But just go ahead and look at the numbers on who supports this kind of stuff and whether or not those people are rising or falling. They are falling. Spoiler alert. What makes it worse is this dude's trying to run for fucking president of the United States of America. Somebody emailed in today and said, Justin, does this help or hurt Mike Pence? Help or hurt? I'll give you a little lesson. It hurts him. Want to know why? Because even if the majority of Republican voters agree with what he's doing, which I don't think that's necessarily the case, it becomes his one issue. Any interview you have with Mike Pence begins with a conversation about this law. He is off message. Unless he wants to run on the I discriminate against people based on religion ticket, which I don't quite think is there. I don't quite think that is the broad coalition you need to make your way into the White House. He does not want to deal with this. Which brings me to my other point. This is a sign of bad leadership. Because look at what Mike Pence wants as a dude. He wants to be president. He wants to be a good governor to his state. He wants to be president. So you can debate on whether or not this law is him doing the being a good governor thing. You know, whatever. That's whatever your own opinion. It's not my opinion. I don't think it makes Indiana a better state, but whatever. Reasonable minds can disagree. What you can't disagree on is that this is a distracting negative thing for somebody who's about to run for president, which means he had to look at a couple choices and say, all right, am I going to run for president with the best record? In that case, I take the hit locally and I piss off my base locally for me to go forward. Or do I cave in on the local level, go ahead with this, and now become the figurehead of this entire law? Because nobody gives a shit about Dick McFucking-suck, the representative in Indiana who thought this was a great idea to begin with. Everybody cares about Mike Pence. Do you want to know what? I am not a Johnny-come-lately, all right? I am not somebody who bails in the first sign of trouble. Last week on this show, I made myself the unofficial campaign advisor to Mike Pence and his race for the presidency. And I am not wavering in my commitment. I got some new slogans for you. Number one, if you are a Mike Pence supporter, congratulations, you're pensive. I'm feeling very pensive right now. I'm in a pensive stance as I contemplate the White House under Mike Pence. So that's free for you right now. How about this? Mike Pence, not a homophobe. I'll kiss a dude right now. There we go. He goes to every fucking stump speech. And whenever somebody asks, hey man, what about this gay law? He's like, well, we didn't do it for that. We did it to protect religious freedom. And they're like, well, but really, it really discriminates against gay people. I'm not a homophobe. I'll kiss a dude right now. Want to make out? Oh, shit. You're on Meet the Press. George Stephanopoulos is trying to fucking make you look like an asshole. I'll kiss you right now. You want a kiss? I'll kiss you, bro. I'll kiss you right on the mouth. And I'm not going to fuck around, man. I'm giving you tongue. You want to know why? That's how much not a homophobe I am. Oh, and then he's like, well, I don't think that's appropriate. Oh, gay hater. It looks like I got a gay hater over here. I didn't know they hired gay haters at Meet the Press. Sorry, George. And then you just leave. Boom. Come on, man. Mike Pence, I'm here for you, baby. I'm pensive. What else we got? We got a hell of a, man, this is the punk rock JuRY show. I feel like we do need a little sounder. Here we go.
Oh, you didn't know?
So there's this thing that happens whenever I go to, Nerdtacular, Dragon Con, South by Southwest. Every once in a while, something happens where I see a tweet on my Twitter, and I'm like, hey, it's like, oh, I'm going to this thing. I would like to see Justin R. Young. So I go to the thing. Apparently, they're going to the thing. And then after I leave, I see another text that was like, saw Justin R. Young, didn't have the balls to say hi. And it always drives me up a wall because, like, I don't want to seem, it makes me feel bad to seem like I'm an intimidating kind of person. So it's like, I don't know. It's not really the way I like to live my life. So it always makes me feel bad, like I did some kind of offense. But this week, I have proven myself to be an absolute hypocrite. I was at the Ring of Honor show on Friday. We did a double dip. It was amazing. Listen to the Fanny Pack Wrestling podcast. I did a whole thing with them talking about it. But one of the wrestling podcasts that I've listened to over the past year is the We Watch Wrestling podcast. It's Matt McCarthy, Tom Sibley, Vince Averill. So they mentioned on that show, they're going to the Ring of Honor show. I know I'm going to the Ring of Honor show. Oh, shit. So I tweet out, oh, man, it'd be really awesome to fist bump Matt McCarthy. Or it was just the Rewatch Wrestling podcast. I just put their general thing. So next thing you know, I go to the Ring of Honor show. We got good seats. We're 3 rows off the fucking railing. Who's first row right in front of us wrestling Matt McCarthy and Vince Averill, as best as I could tell. Although he physically does not quite look like I would imagine his voice to look. But that's another thing that I get all the time that I would be really annoyed when people say to me. Anyhow, I didn't have the guts. I didn't have the guts. It was just never the time. They walked by once, and I'm like, no, I'll see him again, because I was also kind of looking for people. And then we had to leave for this other show, and we just never got a chance to say hi. Another one. I listened to the Cheap Heat podcast, Peter Rosenberg and David Shoemaker. I didn't see David Shoemaker, but I saw that Peter Rosenberg tweeted out a seat location to walk by. I don't see that dude. But I do see Sam Roberts, somebody else that I listen to on wrestling commentary. And I don't say hi. So whenever I fucking do that thing where I'm like, hey, man, come say hi, please understand, I want everybody to come say hi. If you know who the fuck I am, that is an honor in and of itself, and I really appreciate it. And number 2, I'm a hypocrite. I'm a big, fat-ass hypocrite, and that's really all I have to say about that. Here's why pro wrestling rules. Pro wrestling is one of my favorite things. I've spent the last year getting very, very, very much back into pro wrestling. It is a joy and an honor to have gone to see so many shows that I did this weekend. But it really made me think about pro wrestling and about the art form itself, and specifically about what happened at WrestleMania. I'm not going to bore you guys with the details. And again, as part of this episode, you are going to literally get an entire soundtrack of me listening to WrestleMania. So if you want that, you have it. But pro wrestling is unique because it is an art form that is not about the now. It is not about the past. It is about the future. Everything is about what will happen. Now, that's a basic element of storytelling, and specifically good storytelling, but it's magnified for some reason in pro wrestling because it never ends. There are moments that are predestined to have bigger outcomes, like WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, stuff like that. There are gear shifts where things change, but it's never about the now. And the past only serves to set context for what will happen. So therefore, you find that the most successful elements of pro wrestling are not the ones that give us happy endings. They're not the ones that give us somber endings. They're ones that create the most future. As if you're excavating the side of a mountain and mining future out of it. Some opportunities give you very little future. It's why, although it was an amazing WrestleMania moment, Daniel Bryan, who's this crazy underdog, winning and going over 3 of the most established stars in the company, is not as good of a story as what happened last night, where a bad guy came from out of nowhere and won the championship. Why? Because the day after WrestleMania, you can only be happy for Daniel Bryan, as we were last year. Today, in the San Jose SAP Center, where I will be in not but a few short hours, I don't know what's going to happen. And that gives me a boner so hard, I could break a cinder block like Seth Rollins driving Randy Orton's head through it with a curb stomp. It is what's special about this storytelling art form. Think about that in your daily life. What could I do that would create the most future? What could I do that would create the most possibilities? All right, real quick. Emails. Let's do email stinger. Kyle writes, Dear Jury, after listening to the neon signs that people were writing onto the show, I thought I would share mine. I do have a few instances of missed signal with a couple of girls. So let's start it. When I was 17, an attractive girl I was flirting with asked me to my house. During a movie we were watching, she told me that she would take a shower and then proceeded to ask me if I wanted to come watch. Being the dummy that I am, I told her no, and I wanted to continue to watch the movie. Strike one. He continues with another story. Another time during high school, I moved into a house with a girl my age living next door named Crystal. After introducing myself and playing with her brother who was younger than me, Crystal's friend ran outside and said Crystal likes the new guy. After that, whenever I would go over, I would end up hanging out with Crystal instead of her brother. Many days we would spend jumping on the trampoline and swimming in her pool. One night while I was spending the night at their house, her brother fell asleep on the couch. So I sat next to her on the computer for a few hours while she talked and flirted with a guy she knew from school. This lasted about 2 hours as she proceeded to talk about the things she wanted to do with him, hinting that she wanted to do them with me, and eventually ended up taking off her bra under her shirt, clearly displaying she was ready for action. Crystal said she was going to bed, and she asked me, since her brother was sleeping on the couch, what would I like to come sleep with her in her bed? Instead of saying yes, I tell her that I'm going to go wake up her brother and then go to sleep on the floor, and proceeded to do so. Oh. Strike two. And we have one final story. Another time I was in senior high school. I was told by a guy that his friend Rachel liked me and wanted my number. Having low self-esteem, I didn't believe him, but I gave him my number and gave it to her anyways. Rachel and me talked on the phone and through AOL Instant Messenger constantly. Dating yourself. I thought to myself that maybe she did actually like me. One night, after talking about her and her boyfriend who were constantly fighting and she was gonna break up with him, she proceeds to send me nude pictures of herself. Oh, yes. Stunned, I did the one thing that high school guys do when a hot girl does something like that. I show people. Oh. Looking back, it was a complete opposite thing I should have done, because I ended up showing it to a friend of one of her boyfriends. Obviously, he finds out, she gets furious and cuts all ties with me. That's not a neon sign story. That is a sign that you were not raised correctly, Kyle. You have violated. If there's one thing, I want anybody and everybody to understand this very clearly. And this is something I went over on this podcast before as many people listen to it as listen to it right now. And I want to make this absolutely clear, especially for the young listeners. A girl or a guy sending you naked pictures is a sacrosanct act. That is a act that you should treasure. That is a sign of trust. That is a sign of favor. That is a sign of everything that is good in the world. For you to betray that is disgusting. That is not you missing a neon sign, good sir. That is you learning a lesson that near-dwellism does not pay. That villains don't win. Unless, of course, you have naked pictures and you're Seth Rollins and you cash in your money in the bank briefcase and become the WWE Heavyweight Champion. And that brings us to the end of the Punk Rock Jury Show. If you would like to download this podcast, you can find it on Stitcher, iTunes, and some other shit. Email me at justinrobertyoung@gmail.com, Justin R. Young on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Periscope, Meerkat, whatever the fuck. I'm on there. That's my handle, Justin R. Young. Of course, you can always hashtag join the conversation at diamondclub.reddit.com. I gotta find a better way to plug the Reddit, man. I feel like it's gonna be a good time. And of course, you can just email the show, justinrobertyoung@gmail.com. Put jury in the subject line. That is the punk rock half-hour edition of the Jury podcast this week. Hopefully you like that and the big, long stream we did last night. Unfortunately, that's going to be it for this week. Back to regular schedule next weekend. But ladies and gentlemen, if you find yourself picking the pieces up from the failure of getting pinned in the center of the ring by your former best friend in the main event of WrestleMania, if you find yourself so sad that all your old friends from your old job 15 years ago came back to help you win against a cross-promotion nemesis and you still couldn't pull it off, if you are R-Truth and you couldn't even get a great spot during the six-man ladder match, I say to you, remember your pal Justin Robert Young is here for you, and friends, please don't die!
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.